Once you get into the system, you're cared for in an excellent fashion by the frontline workers. If you look at the problems within the HSE, you will see that it is a problem of administration, of top-heavy down. And as a result of that, the 17 billion or so that's been pumped in year on year is actually absorbed quite a lot in terms of administration. And what we need to do is find a slicker, smarter way of managing our health services to ensure that the money that is being put in is put to better use and goes directly to the care of the patient, down to the front line, and in the development of specialist areas and in the development of primary health care. I fully support the RAPID programme and the KCLR programme. I believe that they have been exceptional in terms of their outcomes. And if anything, during this election campaign, I have seen social deprivation that I thought I would never experience in my lifetime in politics. And therefore, the RAPID and KCLR programme need to be expanded and even greater funding given to both projects to ensure that communities can develop, that they can deal with the issues of drug abuse, the issues of that social deprivation which I spoke about, and yes, we need to increase the funding in those areas. In terms of the add-ons of the family resource centres and so on, they have proven to be an exceptional success story, and they have galvanised communities against all of the issues that they now face in modern society. And as I've said to you, RAPID has proven itself and deserves to be funded into the future. I have an issue in terms of delivering that money through local government. It's best spent coming either directly from the department in terms of family resource centres, or directly to the Homework Club, or directly to RAPID, as much as possible, cutting out the bureaucracy and the spend on that money from the top to the bottom. And that's what we need to concentrate on. There is far too many layers of bureaucracy between the issuing of the cheque and the spending of that cheque. And I think that the communities will be far better served given that money directly from the departments for their spend. Yeah, I support the notion that the catchment areas as laid down by the department are the areas of, in terms of feeder schools into secondary schools, is the catchment area that should be used. I know that an issue has emerged in relation to a school in Kilkenny. I attended the public meetings there and I supported those public meetings. And I believe that the policy as laid down by the Board of Management should be reviewed. I would encourage that. There is a multi-million euro extension provision in terms of the extension and refurbishment of that school, and I think that that will deal with the places that are necessary in that particular area. But I think that the old way of feeding into secondary schools, the feeder schools into secondary schools, is a proven track record and should be adhered to. Well, the Croke Park Agreement is now in place, and if the Croke Park Agreement doesn't work, well then it will be down to a completely reform of the public sector. In order to make the Croke Park Agreement work, then we're going to have delivery on every single aspect of that agreement. We will have to see real reform, real value for money. It isn't just about dumping numbers out. It's about protecting the frontline workers, and I've always done that. But it's about reform of the middle to senior management of bureaucracy in this country. And if the senior managers are serious about the Croke Park deal, they will implement and drive every single piece of reform that's in that agreement. Because we can't afford to go on the way we're going, where the human resource section of the HSE admit that they have 2,000 people in there without a job description, where others will comment and say there are 6,000 too many in one particular section or one particular department, and where others will complain that there isn't sufficient numbers in other departments. We have to have a seamless movement from one department to the other, from one agency to the other, to ensure that this country works. And I believe that if we have a public sector that is the envy of Europe, and where people and employees can move again seamlessly from the private to the public sector, then we will have reached success. But we have a huge distance to go, and this country cannot afford to continue to pay a public sector, and I'm talking about middle to senior management here, in terms of the current work practices. And the work practices that they have on the front line need to be supported and developed alongside modern work practices and human resource management. The unions have a huge role to play in this. And if they are to modernise their approach to how this country would run, well then they would be making a huge contribution. And I think that we all have to recognise that. And we also have to recognise that in the political system, Phil Hogan talked about reform of the Dáil and Senate, we are light years behind where we should be. Reform should be absolutely essential. And we are putting economic policies before you in this election. Parallel to that, there should be structural reforms. It's not all about numbers. It's about structure. It's about how you administer this country. And the electorate will give their verdict on that. And then politically, there will be a challenge to both unions and the politicians that are elected. Will they have the bottle to implement the change that is absolutely vital if we are to see it economically and socially?